Hello everyone and welcome to Gamers Anonymous. Today I'm excited to dive into Star Wars Outlaws. And more specifically, to talk about the way the game's visual style, design, and overall presentation impacted me as a player. As someone who's been immersed in gaming for most of my life, I've seen it all when it comes to how a game's look and feel can influence the player's experience. In this video, I'm aiming to bring that wealth of experience into my analysis, offering insights that I believe will resonate with both veteran gamers and newcomers alike. I'm sharing this review as I'm playing through the game, which allows me to give you my raw, real-time impressions as I experience Star Wars Outlaws firsthand. This means you're getting an authentic look into how the game evolves and engages me throughout my playthrough. I'm not just reflecting on the game as a finished product, I'm reacting to it as a journey in progress. Whether it's the dramatic cutscenes or the way the characters come to life in the story, you'll see what I'm seeing and hear my thoughts as I navigate the galaxy. Throughout the video, I'll be covering key aspects of the game, starting with its overall background and lore. As with any Star Wars game, the universe it exists in is packed with history and rich storytelling. But what makes Star Wars Outlaws stand out is its unique angle on the franchise. Set between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, the game provides a fresh perspective, steering away from the typical Jedi vs. Sith storyline and instead focusing on the gritty underworld of the galaxy. This creates a new experience for players who are looking to explore Star Wars from a different angle, bringing a scoundrel-like, morally gray character into the spotlight. Next, we'll move on to the game's storyline and characters, two of the most crucial elements in any action-adventure game. The protagonist Kay Vess and her journey through the galaxy are not just well-written, but also deeply immersive. I'll dive into how the game manages to weave complex relationships and personal motivations into a larger galactic conflict. It's in these details that Star Wars Outlaws truly shines, offering a narrative that feels both personal and epic at the same time. I'll also be talking in depth about the game's graphics and overall design. Let me tell you, the first thing that hit me when I started playing Star Wars Outlaws was that this game is not very optimized in terms of graphics and performance. The detailing and design of different planets looks breathtaking from a distance, but the cracks start to appear once we take a closer look. Using Ubisoft's Snowdrop engine, the game is developed on a grand scale and tries its best to give you a superficial experience of navigating Star Wars universe, whether you're speeding through a dense urban landscape or navigating the vast emptiness of space. Lighting effects, texture details, and character animations all are mediocre at best when examined closely. I'll be going into the technical aspects of the graphics and how they enhance the overall experience. I'll then touch on character progression and gameplay mechanics. As with any RPG, how your character evolves and the tools you're given to navigate the world are critical. In Star Wars Outlaws, the gameplay mechanics are quite complex and overwhelming in the early stages. I'll be discussing Kay's abilities, how she grows as a character, and the different playstyles the game allows. Whether you prefer stealth, combat, or exploration, there's something here for everyone. The balance between action and exploration is another aspect I'll be focusing on, as it's key to making sure the game stays engaging. And lastly, as a bonus, I'll be sharing some tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. Whether it's how to navigate tough missions or which skills to prioritize early on, I've got a few insights that could make your playthrough smoother and more enjoyable. These little details can make all the difference, especially for players who might be new to this type of game or those who want to dive straight into the action without missing a beat. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's explore the galaxy together and see what this game truly has to offer.
Wait! Nobody move. You either pay me now, or just pay me.
We're the Rebel Alliance.
So?
As we all know, Star Wars Outlaws is based on the much-beloved Star Wars franchise, a universe rich with lore, diverse characters, and thrilling space adventures. While the franchise has seen many adaptations in various forms, this game marks a unique turning point. For one, it's the first time that Ubisoft has ventured into the Star Wars universe, adding its own signature touch to the beloved galaxy far, far away. Ubisoft is no stranger to creating vast, immersive open worlds, having developed acclaimed titles like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. However, Star Wars Outlaws presents new challenges and risks, given the massive legacy it inherits from both the Star Wars name and the expectations of a sprawling, fully realized galaxy. Another significant aspect of Star Wars Outlaws is that it breaks the long-standing relationship between the Star Wars gaming franchise and Electronic Arts, EA. Since 2013, EA has had exclusive rights to develop games set in the Star Wars universe, producing titles like Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This exclusivity came to an end in 2021, which opened the door for other developers to create their own visions of the Star Wars galaxy. Ubisoft's massive entertainment studio is the first to take up this challenge, and it's doing so with an ambitious open-world game. One of the standout features of Star Wars Outlaws is its fully open-world setting, which is a first for the Star Wars franchise. While past Star Wars games have allowed players to explore various planets and locations, none have offered the true expansive freedom of an open world, or more accurately, open worlds. In Star Wars Outlaws, players aren't confined to a single environment or planet, but can travel across multiple worlds, each with its own unique landscapes, challenges, and secrets to uncover. This kind of freedom allows for a more immersive experience, letting players engage with the Star Wars universe on their own terms. Players can decide where to go, who to align with, and how to navigate the complex power dynamics of the galaxy. With the game's open-world design comes high stakes and considerable risks. Ubisoft is tasked with capturing the essence of the Star Wars universe while delivering a game that appeals to both hardcore fans of the franchise and gamers who are drawn to the studio's open-world expertise. The game's open-world approach requires it to live up to the expectations of fans who are eager to dive into a vast, detailed version of the Star Wars galaxy filled with opportunities for exploration, combat, and interaction with the universe's deep lore. The gameplay in Star Wars Outlaws is expected to feature intergalactic battles, dynamic environments, and the ability to forge and break alliances with different factions across the galaxy. The freedom to navigate this galaxy at the player's discretion adds an additional layer of depth to the experience. Players can choose who to trust, where to go, and what missions to take on, giving them more agency over the outcome of their story. The ability to shift loyalties and choose sides makes for a complex and engaging narrative that evolves based on the player's decisions. Despite the high expectations for its open-world setting, Star Wars Outlaws does not feature a story premise of grand, galaxy-altering events. Instead, it grounds itself in the more gritty, underworld side of the Star Wars galaxy. The game takes place in the timeline between Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. This is a time when the Galactic Empire has firmly established its control over the galaxy, and the Rebel Alliance is fighting against the Empire's oppressive rule. However, the story doesn't center on the well-known struggles between the Empire and the Rebellion. Instead, it follows a criminal underworld where various factions, cartels, and syndicates take advantage of the chaos to exploit the weak and the innocent. At the heart of the game's story is Kay Vess, a lowly thief and slicer who is trying to survive in this unforgiving universe. Kay is far from the heroic, Force-sensitive characters we've come to expect from the Star Wars franchise. She isn't a Jedi with powers to save the galaxy or a prominent rebel fighting for freedom. Instead, she's a morally ambiguous scoundrel, reminiscent of characters like Han Solo or Cassian Andor, who navigates the dangerous world of crime syndicates, bounty hunters, and corrupt officials. This choice to focus on a non-Jedi protagonist grounds the story and provides a more personal, intimate narrative that players can relate to. As a character, Kay reflects the tone of the game itself, gritty, grounded, and focused on the smaller, more personal aspects of life in the Star Wars galaxy. Her motivations aren't grandiose. She doesn't seek to topple empires or bring about galaxy-wide change. Instead, her main concern is survival, and she uses her skills as a thief and a slicer to make her way through the galaxy. This focus on the smaller scale of the story gives the game a different tone from other Star Wars titles, allowing players to explore the gray areas of morality and decision-making in the galaxy's criminal underworld. Star Wars Outlaws brings something new and exciting to the Star Wars franchise. With Ubisoft at the helm, the game marks a departure from the grand narratives of Jedi and Sith, focusing instead on the smaller, more intimate stories of survival and crime in a vast open galaxy. The risks are high, but the potential rewards are enormous, offering players an unprecedented level of freedom and immersion in the Star Wars universe. Whether you're a fan of the franchise or just someone looking for a new open-world experience, Star Wars Outlaws promises to deliver a fresh perspective on a beloved galaxy far, far away.
The Pikes have the most say, thanks to Gorak. Cutthroat, political. They pay up to play favorites with the Empire. Then, Crimson Dawn. Gorak's kingdom. Crafty, sneaky. Unlike the Hutts. With them, what you see is what you get.
The developers of Star Wars Outlaws made a conscious decision to keep the game's storyline grounded in a way that distances it from the grand mythic narratives often associated with the Star Wars universe. Instead of focusing on a larger-than-life Jedi or Sith protagonist, they center the story on a relatively unknown and morally ambiguous character, Kay Vess. Kay is not a powerful Force user or a prominent figure in the Rebel Alliance. She's just a scoundrel scraping by in the galaxy's underworld, taking whatever small jobs and gigs she can get to survive. This decision has a significant impact on how the story unfolds and how the player connects with the protagonist. From the first few hours of gameplay, Kay's character appears deliberately understated. She has no significant ambitions beyond maintaining her freedom and staying out of the bigger galactic conflicts. While other Star Wars games tend to introduce characters with immediate gravitas, people with destinies tied to saving or conquering the galaxy, Kay starts out in a much humbler position. This seems to be an intentional choice by the developers to allow players to witness and experience her growth over time. Rather than entering the game as a fully developed hero or anti-hero, Kay evolves throughout the course of the story, gaining more prominence and skills, much like Han Solo did in the original trilogy. She's a character who starts with little more than her wits, but as the story progresses, you can sense that she is on a trajectory that could lead her to become a legendary figure in her own right. Kay's journey is personal and localized, which makes the stakes feel smaller initially, but that's where the appeal lies. She's a character that grows on you gradually, and it's through the smaller, more intimate moments that her personality begins to shine. What makes her stand out is not any grandiose mission to save the galaxy, but her scrappy determination and her ability to survive in a hostile world filled with danger at every turn. There's something refreshingly human about her lack of ambition. She just wants to live another day without getting caught in the crossfire of the Empire or the Rebellion, and the addition of her pet companion Nix significantly enriches Kay's character and the gameplay experience. Nix, a newly created species known as a Merkle, is arguably the game's most original element. It's clear that the developers put a lot of thought into making Nix a central part of both the narrative and the gameplay. Inspired by the developers' own pets, Nix is adorable from the moment he appears on screen, with an engaging and playful demeanor that draws players in. More than just a cute sidekick, Nix plays a crucial role in gameplay mechanics, helping Kay navigate difficult situations in both combat and stealth. The bond between Kay and Nix adds a layer of emotional depth to the story, making Kay more relatable and endearing as a character. Nix's role extends beyond emotional support. He is instrumental in helping Kay overcome obstacles, whether it's sneaking past enemies or assisting in takedowns during combat sequences. This mechanic adds an extra layer of strategy to the gameplay, allowing players to think creatively about how to approach different challenges. It's one of the ways the game adds variety to its systems, making it feel more interactive and engaging. As you progress through the game, you encounter a host of side characters and crime syndicates, which serve as the backdrop for Kay's journey. There are 3 major crime syndicates that Kay interacts with throughout the story, each led by formidable figures she must either ally with or oppose. However, during the early hours of gameplay, many of these side characters and crime bosses feel somewhat flat. Their roles in the story are functional, but they lack the depth and complexity you might expect from key players in a Star Wars narrative. So far, they appear as little more than stereotypical crime leaders with few distinctive traits that set them apart. The primary antagonist, Slyro, is introduced early in the game, and he immediately comes across as a menacing and ruthless villain. His interactions with Kay set the stage for a compelling dynamic between the two characters. The tension between them drives much of the early story, with Slyro's cruel and domineering presence constantly looming over Kay's actions. While the crime bosses and side characters may not stand out as much, Slyro's role as the main villain is promising, and the conflict between him and Kay hints at a narrative arc that could develop into something truly engaging. Aside from the main cast, Kay interacts with various NPCs, including job brokers, who offer different missions that help her progress. These smaller characters add texture to the game's world, providing a sense of community and interconnectedness within the criminal underworld. They also serve a functional role, giving Kay the gigs she needs to make money, upgrade her skills, and ultimately prepare for the larger heist that serves as the game's central plotline. The overarching plot revolves around Kay pulling off a high-stakes heist in Slyro's compound, which involves a large sum of money and plenty of danger. Much of the game's progression is about how Kay prepares for this heist, how she recruits crew members, upgrades her equipment, and hones her skills to be ready for the job. This approach allows the story to unfold in a more grounded and methodical way, keeping the player invested in the small, incremental steps leading up to the big moment. In conclusion, Star Wars Outlaws opts for a more grounded, character-driven storyline, offering a refreshing change of pace from the epic battles and grand narratives often associated with the Star Wars franchise. Kay Vess starts as a humble scoundrel, and while her initial presentation may seem understated, the potential for growth and development is there. The addition of her pet Nix adds a unique dynamic to both the narrative and gameplay, and while some of the side characters may feel lacking in depth, the central conflict with the villain Slyro offers promise. As the game builds toward its climactic heist, it's clear that Kay's journey is about more than just the mission. It's about how she evolves, survives, and thrives in a galaxy filled with danger and opportunity.
Who are you?
Run. I said, run.
Star Wars Outlaws was developed on Ubisoft's Snowdrop engine, a tool known for creating immersive, visually impressive environments in games like Tom Clancy's The Division and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. For Outlaws, Ubisoft's developers centered their design on three core pillars: densely populated, dynamic cities, expansive, open landscapes with a variety of activities, and deep space explorations. These elements were meant to deliver a comprehensive and immersive experience of the Star Wars universe, capturing its grandeur and diversity. At first glance, these three design pillars work harmoniously to create the vast galaxy of Star Wars that fans have come to love. The densely populated cities are teeming with life, bustling marketplaces, and alien inhabitants who provide the illusion of a living, breathing world. The expansive landscapes stretch as far as the eye can see, filled with alien wildlife, hidden paths, and the occasional Imperial patrol. And then there's the thrill of outer space exploration, jumping between planets, evading space battles, and docking with spaceports scattered throughout the galaxy. However, as players delve deeper into the game, cracks begin to show in the game world. One of the most noticeable issues is texture changes. Whether you're running through a city or walking across a sprawling desert, textures sometimes shift inconsistently, with high-definition details suddenly giving way to lower-quality textures, breaking immersion. This inconsistency is particularly jarring when you're moving quickly, like when using a speeder bike or a starship. The environment will seem detailed at a distance, but as you approach certain objects or landscapes, the textures might downgrade unexpectedly. This can give the impression that certain areas of the world weren't polished as meticulously as others. In addition to texture issues, there are problems with the placement of interaction anchor points, areas in the game where the player can interact with objects or characters. Sometimes these points are oddly placed, causing the player to struggle to trigger the intended interaction. For example, you might walk up to a door or character expecting to press a button to continue, only for the interaction prompt to appear slightly off-center, leading to frustration. In extreme cases, bugs like doors failing to open when they should can even force players to restart the game to fix the problem, interrupting the gameplay experience. The game's artificial intelligence, AI, presents another challenge. AI in Star Wars Outlaws is inconsistent at best. Enemy detection can fluctuate wildly. Sometimes an enemy will spot you from an absurd distance, while other times, you could be standing right in front of them and they won't react at all. This inconsistency undermines the game's stealth mechanics and can frustrate players who rely on tactical approaches. It also affects combat scenarios, where enemies may fail to properly engage or follow predictable patterns, making combat feel unbalanced or too easy at times. Despite these issues, it's clear that the developers at Ubisoft put a lot of effort into crafting the game's individual worlds. Instead of relying heavily on procedural generation, the team hand-designed these environments, which is evident in the cinematic beauty of the landscapes. Some of the most striking moments in the game come from these cinematic shots, which perfectly capture the essence of the Star Wars universe. From towering structures under Imperial control to serene alien landscapes dotted with unique creatures. In these moments, the game shines, offering a stunning tribute to the franchise's visual identity. These environments often reflect the unique and diverse ecosystems that the Star Wars universe is known for. You can see alien wildlife coexisting with the futuristic technology that permeates the galaxy. Stormtroopers roam around as a constant reminder of the Empire's dominance, while criminal syndicates skulk in the background, plotting their next heist or scheme. This visual dichotomy, the beautiful, harmonious natural world contrasted against the cold, rigid structures of the Empire, adds depth to the game's aesthetic and atmosphere. The game's photo mode allows players to capture some of these stunning vistas in detail, giving them a chance to admire the visual craftsmanship of the game. Although photo mode doesn't fix the technical shortcomings, it does allow you to pause and appreciate the level of detail and care that went into crafting certain areas of the game. It's one way to appreciate what the game could have offered if the textures and technical elements had been more consistent throughout. Finally, it's hard not to compare Star Wars Outlaws to other games in the industry, particularly when it comes to pricing. For some players, the price tag of Outlaws might feel steep when compared to other open world games like Black Myth Wukong, which offers a similarly ambitious world but with much better graphics and detailing, and that too at a lower price. Players who expect flawless execution might find it frustrating to pay a premium for a game that has noticeable technical flaws. However, it's important to remember that Star Wars is a huge franchise, and part of the cost might be attributed to the licensing fees and the expectations tied to delivering a game in such a beloved universe. Star Wars Outlaws shines in its ambition and vision, offering an open-world experience like no other in the Star Wars franchise. However, the game's execution, particularly in its textures, AI, and interaction points, leaves room for improvement. While the handcrafted environments and cinematic moments capture the heart of Star Wars, the technical glitches can pull players out of the experience. For fans of the franchise, there's plenty to love here, but the technical issues might temper the overall enjoyment for players seeking a seamless and polished open-world experience.
Get in. How about getting out? If it wasn't for Nix, I'd be in the ground.
You'd need an enforcer.
You'd need a whole crew.
That's right. With half the prize to split however you like.
In Star Wars Outlaws, the progression and upgrade system is designed to keep players engaged by offering a wide variety of options for skill acquisition, gear improvements, and equipment enhancements. As with many open-world RPGs, the game balances character growth and equipment upgrades, allowing players to continuously evolve their playstyle to suit the challenges they face. The core progression system revolves around Kay Vess, the main protagonist. She can learn new skills, enhance her existing ones, and equip herself with better gear as the game progresses. These upgrades not only improve her combat efficiency, but also expand her ability to explore the galaxy, perform stealth maneuvers, and survive intense firefights. The upgrade system is designed to be flexible, so players can choose how to develop Kay based on their preferred playstyle, whether that's focusing on stealth, combat, or a combination of both. Much like other Ubisoft titles, Star Wars Outlaws offers an extensive crafting system where players can gather various resources to upgrade Kay's abilities and equipment. This crafting process is straightforward for the most part, involving commonly found materials scattered throughout the game's open world. However, for more advanced upgrades, players will need to hunt down rare key materials. These special items are often found during side quests or by looting the strongholds of crime syndicates, adding an extra layer of exploration and challenge to the game. Upgrading equipment isn't limited to just Kay. Her speeder bike and starship, the Trailblazer, can also be enhanced with new parts and features. The upgrades for these vehicles range from basic improvements like speed boosts and enhanced handling to more specialized modifications such as improved armor or weapon systems. Players can customize their vehicles to suit their needs, whether they want a fast and agile speeder for quick getaways or a heavily armed starship for space battles. These vehicle upgrades further enrich the gameplay, allowing players to tailor their experience based on the missions they undertake. The gameplay borrows heavily from other Ubisoft titles and incorporates mechanics from non-Ubisoft games as well. One of the most notable aspects of Star Wars Outlaws is Kay's ability to perform parkour and stealth takedowns. Although Kay may not appear to be a highly trained assassin at first glance, she can scale buildings, leap across rooftops, and take down enemies with her bare hands, even those wearing helmets. This parkour and stealth system is reminiscent of the Assassin's Creed series, another flagship franchise from Ubisoft, where players can navigate complex environments and silently eliminate foes. Kay also possesses a unique ability called the Adrenaline Rush mode, which allows her to slow down time during combat and target multiple enemies simultaneously. This feature bears a striking resemblance to the Deadeye system from Red Dead Redemption 2, where players could mark enemies in slow motion and then execute rapid-fire shots. The Adrenaline Rush adds a cinematic flair to gunfights and gives players a tactical advantage when they're outnumbered or facing stronger enemies. Visual cues and certain combat animations in Star Wars Outlaws are also reminiscent of Ubisoft's Far Cry series. For instance, Kay's interactions with the environment and her enemies share similarities with the animations seen in Far Cry 5 and Far Cry 6, particularly when it comes to stealth kills and melee combat. The seamless transitions between movement and combat in these games are reflected in Outlaws, adding to the sense of fluidity in Kay's actions. One of the game's more innovative features is the integration of Kay's pet companion, Nyx, who plays a crucial role in both combat and exploration. Nyx, a member of a newly created species called Mercal, is inspired by the developer's own pets. Nyx isn't just there for emotional support, he assists Kay during missions by distracting enemies, retrieving items, and even helping with stealth takedowns. This concept of a companion aiding the player character isn't entirely new in the gaming world, but Star Wars Outlaws takes inspiration from Far Cry 5, which introduced the idea of semi-playable animal companions. In Far Cry 6, players could recruit multiple pets, each with its own unique abilities. In Outlaws, Nyx remains a constant companion throughout the game, and his consistent set of skills makes him invaluable, particularly in stealth situations. While Star Wars Outlaws doesn't necessarily break new ground in terms of gameplay mechanics, the game does combine a variety of proven systems to create a solid, enjoyable experience. The crafting system, vehicle upgrades, stealth mechanics, and pet companion feature all come together to form a cohesive whole. However, for players familiar with Ubisoft's other titles or games like Red Dead Redemption 2, these mechanics may feel more like a collection of borrowed ideas rather than something entirely original. But nevertheless, the game does succeed in offering a Star Wars experience that feels both expansive and personal. The progression system ensures that players have plenty to do and think about as they navigate the galaxy, and the mix of familiar gameplay mechanics with the Star Wars aesthetic helps ground the game in its iconic universe. While nothing revolutionary may stand out in the gameplay so far, Star Wars Outlaws delivers a fun and engaging experience for fans of both the franchise and open-world RPGs.
The Viper droids are getting more aggressive. We need to launch our assault.
Assault?
You're going to infiltrate the base, while my team blows open a path to extract the asset.
Sounds fun. Except last time I worked with rebels, I got a death mark. Save the galaxy yourself. I'm walking.
The character of Kay Vess in Star Wars Outlaws is designed with a clear trajectory of growth throughout the game. At the start, Kay is a resourceful yet under-equipped character, unable to take on powerful enemies or infiltrate heavily guarded locations with ease. Her journey, like many protagonists in role-playing and action-adventure games, is one of gradual development. This progression involves acquiring new gadgets, upgrading her existing abilities, and honing her skills to take on greater challenges as she navigates through the galaxy's criminal underworld. One of the key aspects of Kay's character development is the need to progress through the game systematically. At the outset, Kay is not prepared to raid enemy strongholds or infiltrate secret bases without serious consequences. The early stages of the game are meant to teach players the mechanics and help them familiarize themselves with Kay's skill set. During this period, it's advisable to stick to the main quests, as they provide the essential upgrades and tools required to unlock new abilities. The main quests also serve as the primary vehicle for character progression, introducing Kay to new gadgets and giving her the experience needed to grow into a formidable force. The game's world is designed with challenging objectives in mind. Players will encounter enemy strongholds that require careful strategy and proper equipment to conquer. Without the right tools and skills, these encounters can quickly become overwhelming. Therefore, the early hours of gameplay emphasize staying focused on the main storyline to gather the necessary upgrades. By progressing through the main quests, players ensure that Kay is equipped with everything everything she needs to tackle more difficult missions later in the game. Another important aspect of Kay's growth is her partnership with her pet companion Nyx. Nyx plays a crucial role in the gameplay and significantly enhances Kay's abilities. From the start, Nyx is an essential part of the adventure, providing utility in multiple ways. The small but resourceful creature can reach areas that Kay cannot access, retrieve weapons and other important items, and even interact with the environment by opening or closing doors. Nyx's ability to distract enemies and bypass security cameras makes it an invaluable companion, especially in missions that require stealth. Players are encouraged to use Nyx frequently, as its versatility greatly enhances the gameplay experience, making certain tasks more manageable. The visual design of the game also plays a significant role in guiding Kay's progression. The game uses a color scheme of teal and orange, which serves as a visual cue to help players identify important areas within the game's environment. For instance, in a room dominated by blue lighting, areas of interest, such as objectives or key locations, are often highlighted in orange. Conversely, in orange-lit areas, blue highlights indicate where players should direct their attention. This clever use of contrasting colors reduces the time spent wandering or getting lost in the game's complex environments, allowing players to focus on the mission at hand. In addition to color cues, there are also other helpful visual indicators within the game. Arrows and symbols painted on walls point players toward their objectives, guiding them through enemy bases or dense urban environments. Keeping an eye out for these visual hints can greatly enhance the overall flow of the game, especially in situations where players may be unsure of where to go next. One of the standout features of Star Wars Outlaws is its emphasis on stealth gameplay. While Kay has the ability to engage in combat, the early stages of the game encourage players to rely on stealth and strategy rather than brute force. A frustrating aspect of the game's mechanics, however, is the fact that Kay drops her secondary weapon whenever she performs certain actions, such as climbing walls, using binoculars, or engaging in close quarters combat. This can be a bit of an inconvenience, particularly in the early stages when Kay is not yet strong enough to fight her way through enemy bases with ease. Nevertheless, players are provided with plenty of opportunities to use stealth to their advantage. Most enemy bases contain hidden passages, vents, or alternate routes that allow Kay to move through areas undetected. The game rewards players who take the time to explore and find these hidden paths, offering a more tactical and strategic approach to mission completion. Stealth is often the best option when faced with overwhelming odds, as engaging in direct combat can be risky, especially for an under-equipped Kay in the early stages of the game.
Now, what was your lesson?
Can't trust someone's always gonna be there.
That's my girl.
That wraps up our comprehensive overview of Star Wars Outlaws. As many of you may already know, the game is plagued with various glitches that can detract from the overall experience. Even though there is potential for improvements through future updates, the core gameplay experience lacks the innovation that might appeal to seasoned gamers seeking something fresh and surprising. The game's standout feature is undeniably its setting within the beloved Star Wars universe. For fans of the franchise, this provides an enticing opportunity to explore an expansive open world that resonates with the rich lore and history of the Star Wars galaxy. However, if you're not particularly invested in the Star Wars theme or don't hold a deep appreciation for its universe, there may not be enough in Star Wars Outlaws to warrant your attention. The gameplay elements, while functional, don't offer any groundbreaking mechanics or memorable experiences that would justify the game's hefty price tag. For those who are on the fence, it might be worth waiting for potential price drops or future updates that could address some of the current issues. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Make sure to stay tuned for a more detailed overview once I've completed the game, as I'll be diving deeper into its various aspects and providing a more thorough analysis. In the meantime, feel free to check out some key moments of the game, which are also available on my channel. This has been Gamers Anonymous, signing out.